John Wilson, who was once a tasteful and energetic drummer, sits here reflecting and frustrated. After years of silence, he has chosen to discuss his relationship with the late, great musician Rory Gallagher today. Wilson presents a more nuanced portrait of Gallagher, contrasting his universally acclaimed musical genius with the reality that he struggled mightily with his own volatile personality and intractable inner and external issues. During the late 1960s, when fashion was about to explode, taste was at its peak. A sound that fused raw blues with explosive rock intensity was crafted by Rory Gallagher, John Wilson, and Richard McCracken. There was no denying their onstage chemistry, but tensions were rising behind the scenes. Although he was very gifted, Gallagher's perfectionist tendencies caused friction within the band. Wilson reflects on the ways in which the group was affected by Gallagher's fixation on control. Gallagher was the band's de facto leader in addition to being their principal guitarist and vocalist. Decisions were hardly broached. Wilson and McCracken frequently felt neglected because Rory was responsible for everything from set lists and song arrangements to the band's future orientation. When they performed at the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970, things really heated up. A spellbinding performance of blues artistry, it captivated the crowd. It was the start of the band's demise. Wilson vividly recalls the conversations that took place after the event. Rory had already made the decision to break taste without asking his bandmates, according to Wilson. Stung by the treachery, Wilson felt betrayed by someone he thought of as a friend, and it wasn't simply because the band disbanded. Rory Gallagher's solo career, which began after Taste broke up, would establish him as one of the all-time great guitarists. However, efforts were not successful without costs. Both a lauded artist and a difficult collaborator, Gallagher's dogged pursuit of excellence carried over into his solo work. Members of Gallagher's solo band would later recall him as demanding and stubborn. Neither he nor anyone else could settle for mediocrity. He demanded nothing less. Rory would spend hours upon hours in rehearsal trying to find the right tone or phrase. The stress level was high for a lot of people. As a result of Gallagher's extreme work ethic, musicians came and departed. Fans often praised Rory for his humility, but even that had its limitations. Even though he rejected the glitzy lifestyle that many rock stars of his time had, he was frequently stubborn due to his need to be in charge. Whether he was interacting with other members of the band, producers, or record labels, he always stood firm. Although his unflinching character brought him admiration, it also made him stand out in the rock music industry. It wasn't just his bandmates that Gallagher fought with. The music industry, which he saw as too commercial and limiting to creativity, was the source of his notorious conflicts. The glamour and gimmicks that characterized the rock scene of the 1970s were something that Rory flat out refused to embrace. A particularly contentious situation arose in 1974 when he was asked to take Mick Taylor's position in the Rolling Stones. That chance would have been once in a musician's lifetime for the majority of them. It was a living nightmare for Rory. The offer was withdrawn from him. Many were perplexed by his decision, which cemented his status as an incredibly independent artist, and he cited creative disagreements and his uneasiness with the band's larger-than-life persona as his reasons. Nonetheless, Gallagher paid a price for his rebellion. While other rock musicians of his kind played arenas, he had to settle for smaller venues since he wouldn't participate in the game of commercial success. In the background, he battled annoyance. Being aware that a system that valued appearances more than content was ignoring his artistic abilities. Offstage, Rory Gallagher was just as mysterious as he was on stage. The contradictions in his life and music added to his mystique. His admirers saw him as a modest genius, someone who kept to himself and let his music speak for itself. But to his friends and family, he was a guy fighting an uphill struggle with his own conscience. Although fame had provided him with an opportunity, it had also come with costs, and Rory, who was relentless in his pursuit of excellence, quietly carried the burden of these costs. Rory's incessant touring became his lifeline and his prison. He gave his all night after night to performances that stunned audiences, but it was expensive. No room in the schedule for stability. Therefore, there were no roots, no friends, and no place to call home. Rather than partake in the glitz and glamour that surrounded his fellow rock stars, Rory found solace in his music. His guitar was his constant companion throughout his fleeting life. He was never wed. He would frequently avoid social events, making his discomfort obvious to everyone around him. The man who could rally thousands of people appeared lost in a small gathering, at least to onlookers. But there are dark sides to being alone, and Rory's got darker as time went on. As a means of dealing with the overwhelming demands of expectation and weariness, alcohol became an indispensable tool. Initially, it served as a traveling companion during late hours, as a means of connecting with other musicians or relaxing after long shows. But it transformed into something even more sinister over the years. Both Rory's physical and spiritual health started to suffer in the 1980s as a result of his constant drinking. The alteration was noticed by loved ones and friends. A heaviness and persistence of sadness replaced his previously boundless vitality. The man who had formerly captivated audiences appeared to be troubled by the path he had chosen in life. The dynamic between Rory and Donald Gallagher, his brother and manager, became into a safe haven and a source of conflict. Defiantly standing up for his brother's autonomy and honor, Donald spared no effort in protecting Rory from the more brutal aspects of the music business. Even though their link appeared indestructible, it was actually somewhat straining. Donald found himself in tense situations as he tried to manage Rory's incessant drive while also addressing the impact it was having on his health, all because of the porous boundaries between family and company. Discord was exacerbated by the increasing worries about health. Conflict arose between Rory's unwillingness to slow down and Donald's growing concerns for his brother's safety. The reality of living life on full blast dragged them down from the lighter topics of laughter and shared dreams that had previously animated their chats. Honoring Rory's requests while seeing him fall deeper into the problems that would define his later years was a delicate balancing act for Donald. Rory Gallagher found solace on stage. To find solace in the transcendental, away from his suffering. A man behind the guitar, however, was engaged in a struggle offstage that no amount of music could end. His existence served as a sobering reminder that no star is without its dark side, and that greatness is frequently formed in isolation. There is no denying Rory Gallagher's influence on the music industry. He was one of the pioneers who changed the face of blues rock, and his legacy will live on. The way he played the guitar was more than just a talent. It was a vehicle for his intense feelings, an indescribable voice. However, hidden beneath the brilliant surface was a story rife with internal struggles as well as external ones. Gallagher embodied genuineness and served as an inspiration to countless musicians. Eric Clapton was reportedly astounded by his unbridled strength. Slash of Guns N' Roses said that Gallagher was the guitar player who made him think beyond the box. Even Rory considered this praise to be incidental. He was always more concerned with the music than with fame or praise. He reached new heights of inventiveness, but his personal life took a relentless toll as a result of his unfaltering commitment, which became both his greatest strength and his worst pain. What Gallagher provided the world is just as important as what he lost. The two are intertwined in his story. From Tattoo to Irish Tour 74, all of his albums are considered classics because of the emotion that permeated each note and the technical skill with which he performed them. His unwavering vision was on full display in every recording and performance. However, the very procedures and institutions that wanted to turn him into a commodity frequently clashed with his vision. Although admirers saw his defiance as heroic, he found himself marginalized in a field that constantly sought concessions. This dichotomy is shown in the comments of John Wilson, a man who could enchant an audience with his guitar, yet had difficulty connecting with his loved ones. Those who traveled with Gallagher and his indisputable brilliance were both overshadowed by it. His fellow musicians saw him as a perfectionist whose obsession with quality left little opportunity for teamwork. He represented artistic honesty and was revered by his admirers as a hero. Maybe he was just a guy attempting to meet the challenges of life while still keeping his own expectations in check. The career of Rory Gallagher embodies the dichotomy of greatness. It is a tapestry woven with victory and tragedy. For every brilliant moment on stage, there was a lonely one behind the scenes. For every groundbreaking accomplishment, there was an unseen sacrifice. For all time, anyone who seeks authenticity and fervor in music can find solace in his songs. However, his life serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability inherent in legends, the toll that unrelenting ambition takes on humans, and the inevitable conflicts from which even the most lauded individuals cannot evade. The legacy of Rory Gallagher's music is as luminous as his name, yet it is burdened by a tale that is both eerie and motivating. Like his music, his legacy reflects the man who gave his all for his work. It is a legacy of perseverance, genius, and struggle that will echo long after he has left this world.